So, whenever I draw a line, I divide my world in half. So I'm particularly interested in the codes that we use to convey meaning. So in particular, lines, definitions, symbols, and the process of translating the abstract world that we live in into things which we can understand and process. In particular, I'm interested in the binary, that space between being and not being, between 0 and 1, and the relationship between two different entities. So I began my senior project because I was interested in my relationship with the computer, which had newly developed over my college career. So I contact my family through it, I do all of my schoolwork through it, and I spend a lot of time every day on this two-dimensional surface, which contains a seemingly endless world of possibilities created just from a 0 and a 1. And likewise, I think when I draw with both hands, I'm able to explore a relationship between two entities in a very similar way where 1 becomes 2 and 2 are 1. They're both for me. So my goal was to create an interactive art installation where people could experience these questions firsthand through my work. I'd like to show you a few slides from my senior show, which was titled User Interface, an interactive installation exploring the relationship between people and codes. And that showed in the Blum Gallery from May 20th to 24th. So first off, these were some casts of smartphones made out of beeswax and mirrors for screens. And people were allowed to pick them up and interact with them, smell them. They smelled very strongly of beeswax. And often I saw people trying to touch the screen until they realized it was a mirror, at which point it went from here to here and adjustments were made. Very interesting reflection, I think, the way we see ourselves. This series was probably one of my more time-intensive. These are all QR codes or quick response codes, things which you can scan with smartphones, like barcodes that take you to some place online. So these were all hand-painted with a handmade wood ash ink that I'd made from burnt wood on birch panel. So the material itself was very degradable, just as the code itself will degrade when we can't use these anymore, like floppy disks. Oh, they do work. You can scan them, and they take you to an image of a digital image of the wood grain before it had the QR code that I made painted on top of it. In one corner of the gallery, I had set aside a little bookshelf and a stool, and in that bookshelf were a series of very tiny books, all small hand drawings, pen drawings. Some were landscapes that I had drawn outside in the winter. Some were figure drawings. Some were other just drawings from carrying these around every day and filling them up with drawings. In the middle of the gallery, there was a light table from a photo lab that on top of it had displayed what looked like different pieces of writings, but were actually just a bunch of zeros from circled letters. So what I did was took vellum, which is like tracing paper, on normal formats of text, so receipts, books, pay stubs, and circled all the letters and removed them from their original context. So although they look legible, they're just a bunch of circles. This was a sculpture that had a keyboard on each side, and people could go up and feel the keys, and it's almost like a word scramble. They're all letters which create a word, and under each flap of paper on each side of the sculpture is the answer, which is the word. And so it's almost like reversing the process of typing, where your fingers know where the letters are, but it gave people the chance to play with it in a reverse sense. Likewise, I also made a series of keyboard writing paintings. So these are all little dots from the keyboard from every time that I hit a key on a section of writing, and the more circles there are is the more times I've hit that key. This was my Google search workspace. So I created a spot for people to search things on Google and pay special attention to the first few search terms that showed up, because I think they're a very interesting reflection on what Google thinks that we're trying to look for. And some things that are very interesting end up showing up. So there was space for people to write down any interesting Google search finds they had. This was a self-portrait painted not from a mirror, but from the reflections of my computer screen sitting in my lap. And this was my interview with the artist section of the gallery, where I had a video of myself looking into the computer, and viewers could sit in the chair and watch me. I didn't say anything, but I just looked back. And these are a few of my two-handed drawings, or, well, large paintings. These are ink and acrylic. So left and right hand painting at the same time. And these are both like maybe 18 by 24. As well as these. Also painted from reflections from my computer screen. This is outside. Some cheese. My artist statement wasn't in a usual format. It was assembled on a wall in a bunch of little pieces. I hit my head on a brick wall trying to structure this in a linear format, so I allowed my artist statement to reflect my process, which was much more scattered and assembled ideas. Also, as a part of my senior project, I've been in the Hatchery, which is an incubator for student projects, and allowed me to take a business class for the first time and get to think about what it would mean to make art outside of an educational institution. So as part of that, I made a website for myself, and you're all welcome to visit it. It's robinowings.com. And with that, I would like to open it up for questions.